anyway, you can see when I started throwing this talk together was back in the summer. While I'm on the subject, if anyone does want to unmute and ask a question, I won't be thrown. Just unmute yourself and go ahead and chip in and ask your question. You'll see when I started throwing this talk together after my trip to the Monty, and I put this one in because not everybody knows where the Montgomery Canal is. You'll see it's this bit from Newtown, where my laser point is there, and it travels for some 35 miles to where it meets the in-water navigable Llangollen Canal. And then you'll see this 7-mile stretch here is the bit that's actually in water now. And you can actually apply to Canal and River Trust to go down through their locks and travel that 7 mile and then come all the way back to the Llangollen. And other parts in water as well. But for those of you that don't know how to get there, we are down here, right down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. You'll see a tiny bit of Worcester-Birmingham Canal, but to get there by car, you'd have to go up the M6, or on the M5 and then M6, cut across junction 10A, across the rest of the presentation. He says he's fine. So the whole of this 35-mile canal is known as the Montgomery Canal. The strange thing about it doesn't actually go to the town of Montgomery at all. It goes to Montgomeryshire, which is what the canal was originally known as. But from the next maps, you will see that this one shows which parts of the canal are in water, and these are the 7 miles that my friend John has travelled. There's a short little bit at Llanymynech, and then there's something like 12 miles from Arthlin to Berryw, or Garth Mill actually, but Berryw is the nearest village that I know of. So we are in a similar sort of situation with this canal that we were on when we were restoring the Droitwich canals. We have a little bit of canal where we had the Droitwich Junction and we had about 100 yards in water, and then we had a whole long 3-mile stretch that was in water, and then we get blockages or lockages, or where we can't actually navigate any longer. It's sort of a mirror of the Droitwich situation as it was if you go back 20, 30 years. And this is the Shropshire Unions from there. I've pinched this from their map. Again, we've got the Llangollen up here, and they're showing all the points of interest and the facilities that are along the canal. The eyes being information. So on their canal, you can actually click on and see what there is there to visit in the local area. I put these in because they also, rather than just a canal, they show this one here where my pointer is. You'll see the River Vyrnwy and the River Severn. And not everybody knows this. Everybody thinks that the River Severn flows from north to south and goes from somewhere up round Ironbridge and then heads south towards the Bristol Channel. But it actually rises to the west of Newtown, and then for the first few miles of its course, it actually travels north through the Montgomery Valley, past Welshpool, and on up towards Llanymynech and Oswestry before meeting the Vyrnwy. and then heading east towards Shrewsbury and Ironbridge, and then it heads south towards Bridgnorth, Bewdley, Stourport, and then through Worcester and on down through Tewkesbury and on towards the Bristol Channel. So I thought I'd put that in of interest. And this is when I did my visit to the Montgomery, I weren't quite sure how to plan that day, because a canal of some 35 miles in length is not really doable, certainly in one day's trip. So what I thought I would do is go and pick it up at Welshpool, where I had an idea where it ran, and then I would try and visit some of the canal that I'd never actually seen before. And so I picked it up just to the north of Welshpool, and I guessed it was around about the time as you come from the east, from Shrewsbury direction, and you begin to enter Welshpool, you'll see the cattle market there, and so you don't even have to enter Welshpool to have some idea that in the bottom of the valley somewhere is the canal. And this is a place called Buttington Wharf. Just the other side of that bridge there is the beginning of an industrial estate. But this was my first real contact, other than Berryhew Canal Bridge, of the canal. And you'll see that it appears to be pretty well looked after in terms of grass, in terms of towpath, and there's even some mooring rings there should people want to stop and visit Buttington Wharf there. The bridge, you'll see there is a water measuring device where they measure the level of the water. Those of you that are familiar with the Shropshire Union Canal know that they often keep their stop planks handy to the job in a little lock-up locker in a hollow encased inside the bridge. Have you anyone ever picked that up? Oh, you're all muted, sorry. That may be of something that you all know, but if not, then that's what you do know now. And this was in the same bridge, but in the middle of lockdown, so just after lockdown. You can see not that well travelled and not that well looked after either, presumably in terms of vegetation, I mean, because of all the vegetation teams have presumably all been shut and locked away and hiding at home for a good 2 or 3 months. But other than that,
lovely.
Sorry?
It looks lovely like that.
Yeah. Bit of ragwort, if you ask me, Mary.
Yeah, gorgeous.
The canal.
I'll
the
mute
canal
myself.
here. The canal here. The canal here is navigable, and you'll see that even though it looks as though, sadly, there haven't been many boats along there. In fact, there is only, I should say, a couple of boats moored on it permanently, and then there's a trip boat, but sadly the algae has encouraged the promotion of or the lack of travel of boats has encouraged the algae, is what I should be saying, sorry. And the same place, it just so happened that as I pulled up on the car park here, anybody guess what this might be? Bill would know. It is a lime kiln. Well done, Bill. Another picture of it coming up, rather overgrown. This is Buttington Wharf lime kiln, and this car park obviously accommodates people to come view and educate is the word I'm looking for. Educate people into what a lime kiln is, what it was for, and what it was used for. There's another one for you there, Mary. Canal wildlife. But this bloke, apparently, a bit more interpretation. And I'm not too sure who's done all this, whether it would be Canal and River Trust have encouraged this, or whether it's the Montgomery Waterway Restoration Partnership that has paid for the installation of all this interpretation.
He looks like Steve Westwood.
Does it? You could be right there. Let's have another look. You think so?
Yeah.
At any rate.
Chopping at a milestone.
Any rate, a bit of interpretation for you. The signage here telling you that we are just north of Welshpool, but something like 2/3 of the way along the canal, if you take that as the start and this as the finish. Newtown down here and Welshpool. So we're here. Enlarged. I needn't have pointed that out, had I? But anyway, the grey part is the town of Welshpool. You come from Shrewsbury along this road and you carry on out towards Newtown along the down this road. Okay, so we've got, on this stretch, we've got all 12 miles here in water. And what I decided to do was, I know a little bit of this canal. In fact, it's more or less traceable valley. So as you follow the road, you can see where the canal is. You can see the embankment here and there, and where it should be running. On the far side of it, you've got nothing but hills. This side to the east is flat valley and good agricultural land. So I thought, let's go and have a look what it's like north of here, because I've not done that stretch before. We'll have a look what the restoration's like, what the course of the canal looks like. And as I headed out in the car, one of the first things that I came to along the valley floor was those, and couldn't see from the roadside because they look like that. I thought, what the devil are those? Now, the course of the canal runs along here. Okay. Anybody that can't pick that out as being a canal bed, well, you're not a canal anorak in my mind anyway. But I thought, what the devil are those? And they're actually replacement trees. Don't know whether they're fruit trees or what's in those boxes, but this is obviously protection for them, because in the past, these have grown so huge that should they blow over, there's a good chance that they would take the embankment with it. I hope you can all sort of appreciate that. There's a tree that we've just been looking at, and there, if that tree had come, roots and all, with its ball, it would take the embankment with it down into the fields below. So hopefully these trees are much smaller. If they're fruit trees, then there's a good chance that they won't grow anything like as huge as that one is. And the next thing came to was lift bridge, accommodation lift bridge. You imagine the size, the sheer size of an accommodation humpback bridge, as we know them, and then the sheer descent straight after onto the roadside. Again, all looks fairly navigable, and vegetation not too bad there, not encroaching over the towpath. But sadly, this year, lack of movement of boats or the trip boat. There's the descent onto the road, and I've put this one on because such grand views. And I'm thinking, who in their right mind would not want to live there? So peaceful, isn't it? Compared with where many of us live anyway. The view from same bridge in different direction, looking north now towards Pulkey and Arthleen and ultimately Llanymynech. I'm not going to make any apologies for my Welsh pronunciation, by the way. I had a good spit before I came on air. But having known the area for such a long time, I should well know how to pronounce my English place names. Sorry, Welsh place names. So sadly, looking navigable, but sadly a little bit overgrown and could do with some movement of boats on this canal, I think, on this navigable stretch. This is Pool Quay. Again, this is another video possibly. And it also shows the turning winding hole for boats coming north out of Welshport, or the trip boat, I should say. As we had a little bit further towards Arthleen, we've got a similar problem that we had on the A449. If you went back maybe 15 years, the A449 was blocking the Droitwich Barge Canal. The road passes, as you can see, at little more than waist height, with no more than a culvert underneath the road. How they get over this northern limit of navigation, I don't really know, but a rather large bridge, I would imagine, and embankments either side. A massive engineering task, I would guess that one, is similar to we faced on the A449 dual carriageway at Hawford. Now, this is
on the Lancashire Canal as well, haven't they?
on the Lancaster.
On the Lancaster.
The Lancaster.
M5 blocks it off.
M6, yeah.
The M6, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, as Phil Clayton would know, having given us a talk on his trips up north. Now we come to probably the largest structure on this Montgomery Canal. It all follows the valley of the River Severn and the River Vyrnwy. And there are no long tunnels and only one largish aqueduct, something like 89 meters long, 89 meters long, sorry, compared with the Pont Cysylltu aqueduct is around 300 meters long. So it's a short one, nothing like as picturesque, but still worthy of inclusion and certainly in need of restoration, as you'll see. A bit more video. That there is the aqueduct, and I'm filming this from the actual road bridge which runs parallel. So similar to the railway and aqueduct at Chirk, this is a parallel road bridge and aqueduct. And again, this is from the road bridge looking northwest. That's the River Vyrnwy. Now, access to the aqueduct itself, you have to park up on the towpath gateway, and you'll see what is going to be the major problem of the restoration from here north towards Llanymynech and beyond there from Llanymynech to Maithry Bridge. There are several bridges where the actual bridge doesn't exist anymore. The bridge itself has been knocked down and the canal has been filled in or culverted, possibly. I'm not sure in this instance. You can't really make out whether there's pipe there or not, but there is the road. In other words, it's been knocked down and flattened, and the road is now quite a fast road, sadly. And probably the only alternative or compromise, I suppose, between road traffic and navigation would, in this case, be a electrically operated lift bridge. So you park there, see my vehicle in the background, and you can see an awful lot in the navigation, in the route of the canal. Water plantain. Now I'm told that water plantain is a highly regarded species. Mary might know better in terms of rare
Yeah,
plants.
we've got it on.
rare fauna.
We've got it here. We've got it here on this canal. Just up from our church, there's some water plantain, and there's some down towards Tardebigg, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Very pretty. It's nice.
I don't suppose it goes well with propellers, so does it? But there's a compromise with everything somewhere, isn't there? It is. When we're looking out towards the start of the aqueduct itself. Now, even though the aqueduct, the arches of the aqueduct are not that big themselves, there has also been instead of making a massive embankment across the valley, there is a brick-built continuation of the aqueduct that has arches in it, so that should the Vyrnwy River be in spate, it can actually run underneath where we're stood on now. So the other arches, even though the actual aqueduct itself is only 89 meters long, the structure itself is, I would say, much longer than that. Oh. Let's go on. More plantain. And even though there weren't any boats above the water on the canal, you'll see that submersibles are allowed under the water. You see that? That's his periscope of a submarine, by the way. Sort of take that out of interest. They didn't surface, I'm afraid.
Sure, it's not
Bit more video for you from the aqueduct, the top of the aqueduct, looking back towards the road bridge, and you'll see he wants probably about 50 ton of Roundup on there to cut back the vegetation. Mary's going to love me after this. And a bit more rag work for you, Mary. Okay, so current estimates on the renovation or restoration or the making safe of the Vyrnwy Aqueduct are currently running at £1.5 million. Does leak a little bit. Now, John will recognise one of these, and it amused me because this is actually at the start of the viaduct. It's a mile post, obviously. Newtown 23 miles, well, Frankton 12 miles. I always thought that the direction you were heading was to the was the bit that you so if you're heading to the left, let me get this right, which is Welsh Frankton direction, then Welsh Frankton bit should be on the left itself. But no, I think there's actually an angle or a curve on these mileposts, so that this bit, Newtown to 23, actually points towards towards Newtown in that direction, and the 12 miles back towards the Llangollen Canal, 12 miles Welsh Frankton, is in that direction. It's the bit that you can actually see the best from where the direction you're heading. But that was news to me, something I learned. So we moved off from the Vyrnwy Aqueduct and we headed towards Llanamunnock. And I put Llanamunnock Rocks next in view of a funny Facebook post that my friend put. He put Facebook post, Llanymynech Rocks. And I thought, no, it doesn't. It's dull and dreary and not much going on there at all. I thought, how can you put, there's only a couple of shops, there's a couple of pubs, which because of COVID are closed anyway. The tea shop is closed and there's a petrol station, and that's about it. It doesn't rock at all. But this is Llanymynech Rocks here, obviously, and they dominate the skyline as you're coming into the village, rather like Blaenau. Anyone been there and seen the massive slate quarries that dominate the skyline there at Blaenau? Well, this is very much the same. The village is right at the top here, the main road. Now, the Montgomery Canal actually runs along the valley here, so you cannot fail to be impressed by these rocks. Okay. And we decided we would pick up the canal, which would be down here somewhere. We would try and pick it up and go and have a look, see what's there. There's supposed to be a navigable section along here, so we stopped and we had a look. And this is where we picked it up. Navigable, yeah. Algae, yeah. Overgrown area just outside the visitor centre, Llanymynech Wharf Visitor Centre. And what I sort of liked about this is it's already catering for the visitors along the canal. And that is their one and only trip boat that can go maybe a mile upstream and a mile downstream and come back to the visitor centre, or go underneath the bridge and turn around at the, there's a winding hole, sorry, not turning, a winding hole just the other side of that bridge that I just showed you. So we stopped here, and it was obvious that there's quite a bit of interpretation and signage at that Wharf Visitor Centre. What there was as well, incidentally, at the back of the building that I just showed you, there, at the back of that, there's a big yard that reminds me very much of Droitwich Yard down in, you know, the old Droitwich Canal Trust Yard. Didn't have a visitor centre there, but what it did have was piles of bricks, bags of gravel, bags of rocks, pipes, old machinery, etc. So very much along those lines. So while I was looking around that, having a nose through the fence, realised there was quite a bit of interpretation at the one end of it, and so decided to go and find out what all this was about. Mate. And there's obviously a bigger visitor centre, and first strikes you as you walk further away into the trees. You come across obviously benches, picnic benches, and this building, strange edifice at the one end of it, and more tables, chairs, strange tables and chairs that are meant to represent something like a railway carriage or a wagon, something like that. And it's obviously to do with a railway, because this was some sort of a railway bridge. You got railway lines, what was a bridge there, and a railway disappeared off up in that direction, and you've got false made carriage full of rocks, and the rocks came from where the rocks that I showed you before, Llanymynech Rocks, right at the top of the hill, right at the skyline. They were shipped down to the works. This is a stable building for many horses that operated. That is a kiln, that's a mock kiln, and it's where in non-times of COVID, they actually do trips round and guided tours, guided walks, and they'll explain just exactly what these buildings do. And this is a mini kiln. And there's a guy apparently on special days shows how to make lime from limestone by heating up coal, putting in the limestone, and this mini kiln is like a one-man operated kiln. So to go back, sorry, again, this is the stables for all the horses and donkeys that were brought in, many of them from the Boer War, and they were housed in there. It says at the bottom there, army surplus Egyptian donkeys from the Boer War were purchased in 1902 to add extra pulling power, and the stables, etc., currently there for education, and they also store some kit in there as well. This was the foundation of a rock crusher, because many of the rocks coming down for the quarry were far too big and heavy to load into little trucks. So they would have a steam-driven rock crusher. Goodness knows how it would have operated, how it broke, maybe some kind of a rolling mill, I don't know. There we are, stone crusher on that platform. For making it much easier to make rocks into lime powder, limestones, lime from the kiln before it was actually burnt. And as we went a bit further, you'll see this massive edifice. And I haven't started this talk in any way to put our lime kilns at Tardebigge to shame, but in essence, Bill, I'm afraid they do.
Well, ours are quite small, aren't they?
Quite small. Well, they would compare favourably with the one that we went back to at Buttington at the start of the tour.
Oh, yes, yeah.
But how huge is that traditional lime burning kiln? You know, a chap's, you know, that's a handrail up to waist height. From there to their waist height, you can see they must stand some 25 feet high, something like that.
There must have about 70 tons of stuff going through there.
Yeah, now imagine they've got all that rock just up the hill, readily to hand as well. What they did need is loads of coal coming in, and then they would have shipped loads of lime out, but also they would have shipped limestone out itself. The guy at Buttington would have received his limestone directly from this quarry.
Dennis, there's one as big as that at Frog Hall as well.
Yeah. And this is an expert talk. That tower, chimney, I'll get it right in a minute, was what we came to after following the COVID snake. And all these kids from the local village had been encouraged to paint some stones with rainbows and things like that and bring up to the kilns. They made this snake as a bit of a tribute and a thank you for all the nurses and doctors that have been working so hard back then in the early lockdown in March. I think it's probably about 3 miles long now, this snake. There it is again. But you'll see that chimney in the background was part of this. And I doubt very much whether you've seen anything like this in any lime kiln anywhere else. It's known as the Hoffman kiln. and obviously been restored some time back with European money, I think, or lottery, Heritage Lottery Fund money. All the roof on it now is new, all the pointing, etc., resurfacing of the bricks new. That there in the floor is an old abutment where the cast uprights for the original building had to be cut off. You've got arches for putting the limestone in. I think these are supposed to be ingress for air, but this starts to get a little bit beyond my technical realms now, but I'll try and explain it as best as possible. You can actually go inside the kiln itself, the Hoffman kiln itself. So you can see it's been completely restored. And well, how did it work? Difficult to tell precisely. As I say, these doors or inlets could be individually sealed off or opened again for the ingress of limestone. And this is limestone, and it's been stacked up as it would have been in the day, back when it was being used. You can see at the back there, there's a chute. See that little hole? That's a chute where coal would have been poured in from the top, and the coal would have obviously been set fire to, heated up, and then the lime kiln, the limestone obviously would have been burnt by the coal. And this is the interpretation of it. And from what I can gather, I don't know how quick you can read and how much you can place, but it's what is known. See this here, this run is like the chamber which I was actually stood inside on the last shot. So these go round in a massive oval shape, okay? Now, over and above those, I think it says there's something like 365 holes where from above coal could be dropped on top of the limestone, okay, in a continuous manner. So as one section was being burnt, the next section was being emptied, okay, and then the next section was being filled just as the next section was being set fire to again. So it was a non-stop process. Okay, went round and round, fill, set fire to, empty. And the process obviously was a bit more complicated than that. It would have meant shutting off these doors so that only entrances, so that only so much could be burnt at one time. You wouldn't want people catching fire who were trying to empty the kiln round on this side, would you? But it was a continuous, like a conveyor belt, I suppose. And this chimney, 40 meters high, drew all the air through, so there was a continuous draft which provided like a blast kiln kind of effect. Why have I put that in? I don't want to go to that. Not at the moment tonight. So that was my trip on that day to the Montgomery Canal. And I was sent by John a load of pictures, some of which I've used for the next section, because he actually came from Frankton Locks on the Llangollen down to try and have a look as much as he could at the navigable section that's accessible to all at the moment, from Frankton down to Cronwen Wharf. I hope this is going to work. Yes, it is. And here we are. John, I don't know whether you've got your mic on, but please feel free to chip in I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
thanks. I recognise these now.
Yeah.
The just through that bridge hole is the junction to the Montgomery on the left, but actually it was the main canal, and the branch was up to the right, up to Llangollen. And the reason we know that is because beyond there the bridges go back to number 1, 2, 3, and so on, up to Llangollen. So we're approaching the bridge junction now. If we go through the bridge to the next slide, please. And there we are.
Yeah, the entrance to the Montgomery, and you
Yeah.
can see what's interesting on this. I believe you have to book a passage down through the locks. They only allow so many down through at one time. But for me, I quite like this bit here. This 7-mile section of the Montgomery has been restored for your enjoyment because it's obviously been painted over, and as the navigable stretch gets longer and longer, hopefully that figure there goes up and up and up.
Yeah, you are supposed to book, that's right. But I looked at Ellesmere because I stayed in Ellesmere overnight at the basin and was reading up on the notice boards. There was no mention at all there about booking until I got here. Anyway, I spoke to the lock keeper and he gave me the number, and they rang up and they said, oh no, you can't book because it's after 12 o'clock, 12 noon. But bit of sweet talking, and he let us down with everybody else.
So again,
You
this
have the same problem there, Denis. If you look at the original signpost and you look at that one, we have the same problem as we have on the Droitwich, where nothing mentions the efforts of the volunteers.
oh great.
Yeah, yeah.
And do you remember at the Droitwich when we had the all the powers that be wanted to have the opening on the Friday because they didn't want to come out on the Saturday or Sunday, and we had a separate meeting for the volunteers where we had the plaque put on the volunteer to recognise the volunteers. They've got the same problem there. Look on the Monty. Shame.
Super. Yeah. Although they do get a mention.
No, they don't. They say, but it was opened with the presence of.
I can't enlarge it, I'm afraid. But the works were carried out by volunteers of the Waterway Recovery Group, etc. Doesn't actually mention Shropshire Union, does it?
No.
Sadly.
Or the Montgomery Restoration.
I'm going to skip quickly over this one. That's just to prove
I don't blame you.
there. I was going to try and pixelate that bit out, but certainly the legs.
So the lock's okay.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Am
David.
I right? Is this Frankton, John, or Aston?
This is Frankton.
Frankton.
Yep, top lock. And those are the very helpful lock keepers. They were brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. They're not bad, some of them, are they?
Yeah, not at all.
Going down.
And that's looking down the flight from that lock.
Is the first one, I believe, is a staircase lock, isn't
Yes,
it?
yeah. That's the boat's in the second chamber.
And then I had to put this one in.
Yep.
Founder of the Waterway Recovery Group. And last I heard, Mike Palmer still chairman of Waterways Recovery Group. I don't know the relationship. Is it father and son?
Not
Anybody
sure.
know?
Yeah, father and son.
Yeah. Graham Palmer lock. Satis, fitting tribute.
It was just near there, Denis, apparently, I read, where the boat Cressy was fitted out.
Right, I have read something about some involvement there with Rolt. I believe he tried to come down as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
In the 40s, late 40s.
yes, because it was
And
actually closed because of that aqueduct at Vrinia, was it? There's a
Burnley.
breach, but the railway company didn't want to spend any money to fix it, which could have been done in a few days, so I've read. And instead, it was left to rack and ruin, and there we are.
This is a smaller aqueduct, obviously, on the way down onto. Forgotten the name of this. I did write it down earlier
Yeah,
on.
I can't remember. I haven't got my map book with me.
But apparently, it's a modern aqueduct. It's
Yeah.
not a new, not a original. And then I felt I had to put this one on. Anyone that's been up the Shropshire Union will see these hovels. And I just think it's an awful shame. You can see that one. Looks like it's been repaired with just some old flipping ply and maybe some felt originally before that, but nothing done to it for years by looks of it. And it doesn't give a good impression all the way up the Shropshire Union, and doesn't down on here either, really, does it?
It's crying out to be done up. Is that used?
Right. Yeah. But
It might have
would you
been now,
use
for
it
all I know.
What would you use it for? I don't know these days. And again, there's one of those signs that I was telling you about. So Newtown is obviously off in that direction, and the way you've just come is that direction.
I think it's the other way around, Denis.
No,
Because I'm still on my way down the canal from these pictures, I think.
Yeah, it's still on your way down. So Newtown is 30 miles to the south of you,
Right.
whereas Welsh Frankton, the way you've just come, is that way behind you. Yeah, 5 miles. So you've only come 5 miles down from Frankton.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
And a typical accommodation bridge on the Montgomery. Notice there's no parapets. So it's certainly not a road bridge, it's just an accommodation bridge. Bridge 77. So we're getting closer to the end of navigation at bridge 82 or 83, I think it is. How much is that worth then?
Yeah, a lot. I think this is a pub on the right. I've forgotten the name of it because I haven't got my logbook. But when I went down to the other end and came back, I moored there and went to the pub, and they were over the moon with the business that they got from passing boat traffic.
I bet.
It's what was really keeping them going. They couldn't wait for it to reopen fully.
Yeah.
It's a lovely place.
And one of the trip boats on this stretch at Cromwen.
Yeah, this is a horse-drawn trip boat, is this?
Yeah.
And it goes further. The canal, the canal boats can actually go, because it doesn't need to turn around. Well, the horse does, but the boat itself doesn't. And that's the advantage of it.
All you do is lift the tiller off,
Yeah.
take it to the other end of the boat, and head off in the other direction.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, I don't know whether you know anything about this, John, or why you even took this picture.
This is towards the end of the current navigable section, and it's a basin where I think there are people that live on their boats there. You either come through a lift bridge to get to this, or the lift bridge is just to the left of the picture, and it's almost the furthest point you can go to.
It'll probably be Cromwen Wharf.
Possibly, yes. As I say, I haven't got my map with me. Yeah.
Something struck me that as soon as I didn't look at the other boats or where it was, anything like that, but that name there.
Northern Star, yeah.
Northern Star. I suspect that's a Starline boat.
Might have been. Looks as though it could have
Couldn't
been an
be
higher boat. It's
Yeah.
got no chimney on it, has
Well,
it?
But the other thing that struck me, there's a chap been doing canal diaries, and I can't remember what his name is. Some of you may have seen that program, Canal
Yeah.
Diaries, and he's
Yeah.
bought a boat and he's living on it, and he's trying to.
Yeah. Bloke on his own.
Yeah, and he's even been down. He's been down to Stourport and down the river, and he came up. He come up Ulsterburn and up Tard, a big flight.
Robbie Cumming. Robbie Cumming.
That's
Robbie
it.
Cumming, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Well done. I think that name, it might be his boat.
Could be.
We'll have to look at. I'll have to look at it again. Try and find Robbie Cumming.
No, his boat is really a very much older and well, a bit more shabby looking boat. It's called the Naughty Lass.
It
Yes,
is,
and it's got a
but
Lister engine.
it
Yeah,
is.
exactly. He's a
But-
great chap. I mean, we've crossed with him on several occasions. He's a great chap, but it's not his boat.
Was it not originally Northern Star though, Demetrios?
Maybe many years ago, but he's had his boat for quite a few years now, and it doesn't look like it at all. It's quite different, actually.
You have
Okay.
to speak.
Maybe a lot of boats have got similar names or the same name anyway, haven't they? But
Hello, Dennis.
that just piqued my interest.
Louder.
Brian.
Hello, Dennis. This is
Hello, Brian.
Brian.
Hello, Brian.
Hello, Dennis. That's not the Northern Star that Robbie Cummings is boating
Yes,
around.
Demetrios said that.
We owned the original Sunflower that we owned and that still lives in Droitwich is the old Western Star, and it was built at very much the same time as Northern Star, the Robbie Cummings boat, was built. So
They're
that's
much older than that.
around the 1980s, the Robbie Cummings boat was built, as was our original Sunflower, originally Western Star, built in 1983, hull by John South, fitted out Starline. Okay,
That's okay. Thanks for that info, Brian. It just
right. Bye, Dennis. Sorry to interrupt. It's a wonderful
it's not a
talk.
problem.
I'll shut up. Bye.
It's not a problem. It just piqued my interest. I'm thinking Northern Star. Where do I know that name from? Anyway, onwards towards Moisbury Marsh. And when John sent this picture, I mean, I'm a little bit guessing. When John sent this picture, Moisbury Marsh, there's a very similar place to this on the Shropshire Union, I believe, isn't it, on the Llangollen, where the canal is not a canal. It looks like it's going across something like a lake. And I had a think about it earlier on. I thought, what happens when the natural course of navigation comes to something like a marsh, and they can't dig it out because it just keeps filling up with water? Well, I suppose the obvious thing is to just go ahead and dredge a channel straight across the marsh instead of building embankments at one side or the other, or lining it with clay and this, that, and the other. And anybody knows any more than that, but that's just an inspired guess that as you cross over, or as the course of the canal crosses over, that's what I suspect must have happened, is that they just dredged a path straight across the marsh and allowed it to fill in with water again.
Isn't that what they did at Tixall?
Tixall, I know that name, Tixall.
Wide.
Tixall Wide. I said, isn't that what they did at Tixall Wide?
Well, it makes sense, doesn't it, to me anyway, but whether I'm speaking the truth or whether I'm guessing, Tixall is exactly where I'm thinking, you're thinking of now. I know it, I've been across it myself. And you think, where's the canal gone? And it's only because of these boards, running boards either side of the canal, that you know where the navigable channel is. If you ended up over there, you might end up in just a foot of water kind of thing, you know.
Yeah. There's some of those up the Trenton Misery Canal as well.
Trenton Misery.
Yeah.
I know I've seen them somewhere. I think David's right, Tixall. And I don't really know why you put this one in, John,
Right.
and I'm
Well,
guessing.
I didn't at the time, and I asked some people and they didn't know, but it's been on the CNRT website since I was up there in 2017, and it's a sort of a nature area that's being developed, because I believe it might well be an treble SI round there, and they've made an extension to the canal out into that basin to allow for things like aquatic plants to flourish. Really, really expensive what was happening, and I think it's open now.
So this is like a compensation,
Something
wildlife
like that, yes.
conservation area.
Yeah, conservation,
Similar-
definitely. Yeah.
Similar to what had to be done at Salwarp,
Yes.
where or Canal and River Trust, British Waterways at the time, bought offside fields, allowed the drainage to
Coney
farmers'
Reed
land
Meadow.
to be
Yeah.
blocked, allowed the field, Coney Meadow reed bed, that's the word
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Salwarp. And then reeds have hopefully taken over, and the wildlife has got a nice reed bed to take over and emigrate to. And this one,
yeah,
I'm not sure why you put this one in either, but I have a hard.
That's the old Aston branch of the canal. I think it was Aston. It's called.
Okay.
That's the canal through there.
Yeah, didn't go very far.
Doesn't at the
I thought this was maybe the limit of navigation, but at any rate, we are very close to the limit of navigation there now. And
this is going back over the aqueduct that you saw earlier.
Yeah. Now, that is about the limit of what I was going to talk about. We're not done too bad for time, I don't think, anyway. I was going to show everybody this video as a wind-up, but since John sent his pictures, I've decided not to include it tonight. Don't want everybody falling asleep, but on the other hand, there's a bit of picture on this video, actually, if you were to watch it. And I thought, looking at the video, I thought, hang on, that bloke looks just like Will and his work.
He does, doesn't he? And his boat.
Does look a bit like Will, anyway, certainly as you catch him on the video. But there's this one.
It's John, I can't remember his surname, on Buckton.
Not you, then.
No, it's John. I can't think of his surname. He and his wife own Buckton. You're working about Buckton.
It's your boat twin, is it? It's your boat twin, Will.
It looks a bit like mine. They've had it repainted recently.
Yeah. What I will say is this is just one of quite a few videos actually on YouTube on the Montgomery Canal. And if I'd known that, I could have saved myself a trip of something like an hour and a half back to go out and have a look. I could have just played the videos all night, couldn't I? But what I would say, go on YouTube, put in Montgomery, in particular Montgomery Canal restoration, and they will show you drone footage of the channel that is actually restored, as good as restored now. Very shortly, I'm sure there will be water in that section. Also on the Shropshire Union website, if you were to look it up, they will explain what has been going on every single weekend, bar a few back in March. You know, back in December, they had 3 work parties of weekends. Sorry, not work parties, 3 working weekends. I thought it was quite fascinating, and really, your heart goes out really. If I lived a bit closer, I'd love to go and get stuck in and have a say and a bit towards it. So please do go on YouTube and have a look, see what you can find on Montgomery Canal restoration. They'll explain it probably a lot better than I will. And I didn't have a drone either when I went. So hope you enjoy some of those. And in the meantime, that's about it, I think.